One of my many adoring fans out in Fitchburg somewhere. That's interesting. That it needs to be used in something else. You wouldn't pour just the oil on your skin. It would need to be. Is it strong enough to do damage to the skin?
They're 75 to 100 times stronger than the plant they're derived from, and they can cause skin irritation, especially in somebody light like yourself. For me, it would be less harsh.
Okay. Yes, I tend to avoid sunlight at all costs. I burn very easily when I am out in the sun. And my wife can go and sit out in the sun all day and not look like a lobster. I walk out for 2 minutes rolling up my sleeves like this, and I have bright red arms I could flag in airplanes with. Are there certain things that aromatherapy is great for? I mean, just absolutely, you would swear by it, and it's...
I think one of the greatest things, stress is one of them, but I also think that respiratory infections benefit greatly from aromatherapy, because in the proper diffuser they can kill airborne microbials. So let's say your wife had a terrible cold. If you had an electric diffuser going...
Like a humidifier?
Well, they make diffusers specifically for essential oils that don't use heat. They use electricity to get the oils out into the atmosphere. They would kill the airborne microbials before you would have to worry about getting sick.
Oh,
and I've proven that 1,000 times. I've slept next to... My husband would be very sick, and I would keep the diffuser going, and I would not get sick.
Now, this might sound like a bizarre question, and I asked you about this earlier, and you said it wasn't a bizarre question, so I will ask it now, and everyone else out there can see if it's a bizarre question or not. Scented candles, potpourri, even lotions, skin lotions that you buy at like the bed and bath stores in the mall, are usually designed with some kind of fragrance. Now, can these be considered therapeutic, or more on the idea of just to make it more pleasant to sell? Like some of these scented candles or potpourri, are they actually, or can they be considered therapeutic in a sense that what aromatherapy is?
You know, this is a tricky question. It's a great question, but it's tricky. There are some purists out there. My teacher used to say, this is a great story, if a woman walks into a room wearing Chanel No. 5, and your mother used to wear Chanel No. 5 as a child, and she passed away when you were a little girl, and now when you smell Chanel No. 5, it gives you a sense of calmness. Is that aromatherapy? And I say it is. And she says it isn't, because she's a purist, because it's not the pure, natural, essential oils triggering the brain chemicals to react. But for me, if it brings healing or some sort of relief, then it's therapeutic.
So it's almost a perception.
Well, I think that if you burn a candle and you like the way it smells and you find it relaxing, then it works. But I also stress with people, if you're trying to fight a respiratory infection, buy the best that you can buy.
Right. Now, I noticed that there are primarily oils. Is aromatherapy primarily oils, or are there...
Aromatherapy is oils.
Okay. So there are no candle aromatherapy, there are no...
Well, they can put oils into the wax when they're pouring.
Does it have that same effect, or does it kind of lose some when it's in the wax?
Well, it certainly can relieve stress, but for me, what I teach is that you really don't want to heat an essential oil. Once you heat an essential oil, it changes the chemistry.
Okay.
So the best, for me, the best diffuser that a person can use is an electric diffuser, which they're more expensive. And I often tell people it depends upon what you're trying to create. If you're trying to create an ambiance, then a candle diffuser will work, or a light bulb ring will work.
Okay.
Even a Glade plug-in will work.
You see those all the time. Plug it in, plug it in. Now, when you do sessions, if someone were to come to your office and say, we'll use Karen's call as an example with an eczema. Mm-hmm. Do you treat that person as if they're as if you were to go to a regular doctor's office, or is it a series of sessions, like say a Reiki session, where they would come again and it would be the same kind of redoing it, or is there?
Right. I mean, there would be an initial intake which would be lengthy, which it's difficult to take calls like this because it's not fair to them.
Right.
because I'm not getting enough history
Right.
on what's going on. And most of the time, things are symptoms. You know, the real problem isn't that the skin is weeping, you know.
It's something.
It's, you know, a lot of it is stress related and things like that. So the first session would be relatively lengthy because I'd be doing a long intake. And then, yeah, every time it would be an ongoing session. And we would cover how the last blend had helped them and how they used it and how often they were able to use it. People are very challenging to work with because time is so short, and to make time for ourselves is very difficult. We can make time for everybody else, but sometimes for ourselves it's a challenge.
Would you find that you get the most calls regarding stress for the use of aromatherapy? Or what would be the most popular?
Probably stress, yes. Or it would be something that is caused by stress.
Okay. Like, what would be the most bizarre or the most unexpected, maybe, thing that someone has come to you wanting or hoping that aromatherapy could assist with?
The most bizarre. Now that's a tricky question, because people like to work on different levels with aromatherapy, breaking through old pathology,
okay,
and insecurities and things like that.
So it can almost help with, I don't want to say behaviors, but past habits?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So can it help people quit smoking?
That's a big one.
Tina, if you're watching, you need to put those packs away.
Right. Angelica is good for that.
Angelica. Now, and that's applied, that's breathed in?
Right.
Like
that would be more through the olfactory system.
And does that kind of, I mean, what would that do? Does that kind of balance out part of the nicotine that people crave, or is it just?
I think it helps to cut back the desire. You know, I don't know if it necessarily, I don't think that it has any sort of nicotine to it so that it's balancing out the chemistry in your system. You know, I went through a brief program with the government called No More Butts. Actually, the federal government was doing a No More Butts program, and I didn't smoke, but I thought it interesting because they used aromatherapy. And every time somebody wanted a cigarette, they would smell this particular aroma. And so it set it up in their brain that all they had to do was smell this aroma.
And the craving would go away. Right. That's pretty interesting. What about biting fingernails?
It could work on anything.
You just put the stuff in there, or you get some really horrible tasting.
Well, that would really work, yeah.
Let's see. We did that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the classes that you offer. Can anybody learn how to do this?
Yes.
Or do you need to be a certain type of person
No.
to understand this, or a background in science and chemistry and have those big electric things that they had in Frankenstein's office to be able to learn how to do this, or can anyone learn how to do this?
My course is set up for anyone to be able to walk in the door and to learn a great solid foundation in aromatherapy.
Now you have one that's currently going on.
I have one that has just begun, yes.
Now it's too late for people to join that one?
They could join it. This is
where is this being taught at?
That's in Marblehead, Massachusetts.
Okay, and that's Marblehead. That's a ways away.
Yes.
Is there anyone being a little closer?
There's one in there's one in Shelburne Falls.
Shelburne Falls. I don't know where that is, but some of you out there might. If you're interested in learning more about that particular class, when does that start? Or when is it scheduled to start?
The Shelburne Falls begins in December.
Okay, around the holidays, before early December?
Yes.
Early December. How long is the course?
I used to offer this class a few hours a week, once a week for a few hours a night. And I found that it's too difficult for people to commit to one night a week for several weeks. So I condensed the course down to 4 days, 1 day a month for 4 months.
Okay.
And that gives them a month to work on their aromatherapy blends and come up with as many questions as they have. And then the next month we go over all of the information.
And then at the end of that, they're
certified,
and they can go out and practice making things smell and making people smell good.